Call the meeting to order. It's February 11th, 2014, regular council meeting. Number 2, approval of agenda. Anybody care to?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Just a minute. Yes, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Albright.
Two things actually I'd like to add, but I don't really know where they go. One is, it's similar to something we've done earlier. I have a resident who, I guess, what I consider would be performed an act of bravery, and I would just like to kind of discuss that, if we can recognize him for that.
Okay.
Second thing has to do with we're having an issue with a boat in Eel Brook that is in the water, doesn't apparently belong to anybody, and causing some issues, so I'd like to discuss that.
All right, we'll put that under, I guess, is it number 9, other business? I guess
Okay.
9D will be, I'll put act of bravery. And then 9E will be SAR boat.
Sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Anything else to add? Hearing none, I guess we'll take that vote again. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Okay, carried. Conflict of interest declarations. Anybody have a conflict with any of the items on the agenda? Okay, having heard none, we'll move on to number 3, presentation. Comité Bridge Celebrations 2014, célébrons le pont. Mr. Corey Clamp, go ahead, sir.
Well, hello everyone. I'd like to begin by thanking the Deputy Warden and Council for this opportunity to speak with you guys this evening. It really is an honor to be presenting before this council, and on behalf of myself and the committee, I really would like to extend a sincere thank you for this opportunity. So just to introduce myself, my name's Corey Clamp. I'm the current chair of the Bridge Celebrations Committee 2014, and I'm here today to introduce you to our committee, to provide you with some background information on how we came to be, and to let you know what we have planned to celebrate the opening of the new bridge that's joining Sluice Point and Surratt's Island, and to let you know about the work that we've done to date. So, as you're all aware, the 100-plus-year-old Indian Sluice Bridge is being replaced with the grand opening of the new bridge slated to take place in June 2014. Within 2 weeks of opening of the new bridge, it is expected that the old bridge itself will be completely removed. With such a historic event taking place right before our eyes, we feel that it is important that we celebrate what truly is a once-in-a-lifetime event in a way that does our communities proud. So the question comes up, how did the Bridge Committee come to exist? In 2008, the Indian Sluice Bridge Replacement Committee was created to advocate for the replacement of the aging bridge. Following 2 rather dramatic failures of the Indian Sluice Bridge structure, the need for a new bridge was obvious. And while plans were being made to have the bridge replaced at some point, many in our communities were worried that this replacement would come too late. Fortunately, the Bridge Replacement Committee, along with many others, were able to convince the powers that be that the work needed to take place sooner rather than later. And in late 2011, the province announced that construction of the new bridge would begin a full year earlier than anticipated, with construction slated to begin in 2012-2013. The news was good, excitement was in the air. And while there was still much work to be done, the heavy lifting had been accomplished. Once construction began, thoughts began to turn to how we would celebrate this historic occasion. And in late 2013, the Indian Sluice Bridge Replacing Committee held a public meeting at the Club Social des Îles to discuss this very question. With over 2 dozen in attendance, it was decided that a new committee would be created to help organize and coordinate the various celebrations surrounding the opening of the new bridge. The Bridge Celebrations 2014 committee is currently composed of myself, serving as chair. Earl Muse is acting as vice. Anne Cotreau of Morris Island is serving as treasurer, and Monsieur Gérald Boudreau is our acting secretary. Councillor Guy Surette has also been a very active member of the celebrations committee, and as time draws on, other members of the public have also been brought on board to support our work. So now that you know who we are, I'd like to speak a little bit about the goals of our committee and the work we've undertaken to date. As part of the Bridge Celebration Committee's mandate, we have been tasked with organizing, encouraging, and supporting the residents of the villages of Sluice Point, Surrett's Island, Morris Island, and all of our surrounding communities to plan celebrations to commemorate the replacement of the Indian Sluice Bridge. After having spoken to the community during our first public meeting back in November, and following a series of conversations that have been had with several community organizations, including the Indian Sluice Seniors Club, the Islands and District Volunteer Fire Department and Ladies Auxiliary, as well as numerous informal conversations with individuals throughout the Moda area, it was decided that a single event would not be able to capture all that people wanted to take place to celebrate this major event in our community's history. Our committee, along with key community partners, currently have 4 events that are being planned to both celebrate the opening of the new bridge and the removal of the old. These events in chronological order are an organized walk across the old bridge, ending with a reception/supper at the club on the island. The new bridge grand opening celebration, which will take place on the date of the opening of the new bridge. Our third event will be a nostalgic fashion show, and we'll conclude with a wake for the old bridge, the wake being done on the same day as the center span, on the same day that the center span of the old bridge is sailed out. So a little bit more detail on each of those events. The organized walk across the old bridge is expected to take place in early June. Many individuals have expressed a desire to have the opportunity to take one final walk across the old bridge, but feel intimidated by the traffic and construction that is taking place. With the cooperation of both TIR and Dexter, we are hoping to organize an afternoon walk across the old bridge that would conclude with a reception at the Club Social des Îles. Our hope is that by creating this organized walk, we will be able to give both our seniors and those from outside of the immediate communities surrounding the bridge an opportunity to take in this beautiful steel structure in a safe and organized way for the last time. With respect to the bridge grand opening celebration, we have set a tentative date of June 21st, 2014 for this event. The celebration will consist of a ribbon cutting ceremony, a parade across the new bridge that will involve antique autos and motorcyclists, as well as a number of groups that have requested a presence in the parade. We'll have food and souvenir vendors. There will be live music, as well as a blessing from Père Maurice for the new bridge, and we have secured the involvement of our First Nations and Métis community, so they'll have a presence on site as well. We're expecting it'll be a full day of activities, family fun day of sorts. We're really looking forward to it. Following the opening of the new bridge on July 6, 2014, at Église Saint-Joseph on Surrett's Island, there will be a nostalgic stroll through the decades. This stroll through the decades will be a bridal show that will include wedding dresses taken from local families, with some of the dresses dating as far back as the 1940s and extending forward to the present day. These dresses will be modeled by young women from our communities. And following the fashion show, there'll be a reception again at the club on the island with bits of memorabilia from the various weddings featured during the fashion show. And that promises to be quite a good event. We expect to have a packed house for that one. Finally, the celebrations themselves will close with the sailing out of the center span of the old Indian Sluice Bridge. Over 100 years ago, many of our ancestors watched as the center span of the bridge was sailed by barge to its current location, spanning the waters between Surrett's Island and Sluice Point. To be able to watch the same section of bridge being sailed off in the same manner that it was brought in is an activity many wish to take part in, and which we hope to recognize through both a parade of sail during the actual sailing out of the center span, and by way of a wake to be hosted at the Club Social des Îles that same evening. And this event would conclude the 2014 bridge celebrations. One of the main difficulties we've had around organizing these events has been the issue of the date. When will the new bridge be open? And on what date will removal of the old bridge be completed are questions that have not yet been answered. We have been fortunate in that both TIR and Dexter's Construction have indicated a willingness to work with us. And while we cannot give you concrete dates today for most of our events, we are hopeful that we will have dates for all events described above by mid-March at the very latest. Our committee is also working on a number of other projects, including the creation of a souvenir program tentatively titled A Tale of Two Bridges. This book, which will be a bilingual publication, will capture many of the stories and legends that surround the old bridge and will detail much of the work done by our communities to help get the new bridge we so desperately needed. It's hoped that this publication will be available for sale by mid-April. As well, we are exploring options which would see some form of community legacy gift being given to the communities surrounding the bridge, which would ideally capture the energy surrounding the creation of this new piece of vital community infrastructure in a more permanent way. We will be contacting the Municipality of Argyle at some point in the near future with a request for financial support for our series of events, which we expect will draw several hundred individuals into the area over the 2 to 3 week period that are covered by the celebrations. On a closing note, I'd just like to say, the story of these two bridges is truly the story of all of our communities. Our communities exist by way of the work and dedication of individual community members pulling together and supporting each other to achieve the goals they needed to survive and, in good times, to grow and thrive. Again, on behalf of our committee, I would simply like to thank you all for this time this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions for Corey?
Thanks a lot, folks.
Councillor Surratt?
Probably, I don't know if it's a question or a comment. There was a list of people that was made at the public meeting.
Yes, sir.
People that might be interested in volunteering, and
Yeah.
I believe you've got quite a bit of these people from the community involved.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, you do, and you know, the aspect of the album souvenir too is going to be a one-time thing. There's no publication on the bridge anywhere, on the old bridge, but this will be an official publication. And
The energy in the communities for this event is quite high. There's been interest expressed from people from all over the municipality of Argyle, extending into town, extending beyond Nova Scotia. But just within the community itself, volunteers have been plentiful. We're very fortunate in that way. And while we've got our kind of executive committee leading the way, it's really the members of our community that are taking up the challenge and they're going to be the ones that make this celebration a success. So,
Okay. Councillor LeBlanc?
Great presentation, Corey. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Just curious, the souvenir program as well as the celebration branded clothing merchandise. Do you mind touching on that? Just
certainly.
high cost. Just curious. You know,
Well,
what it entails.
we're still getting quotes for the merchandise, so that really right now is
Wishy-washy. Yeah.
wishy-washy. With respect to the souvenir program, we sourced quotes. We found L'Escarbeau was, given the scope of the work that we needed done, L'Escarbeau was the space that worked best for us. The cost for the souvenir programs to produce is going to be just around $5,000, just a tad over tax in. We will be having advertisements within the program itself that will defray the cost of the publication. We've been very fortunate in that we've already secured a number of full-page ads for the publication. If there's any individuals here who are interested in learning more about the ad space, feel free to contact me. But so the souvenir program itself, we've got no concerns about that. With respect to the merchandise, our current plan, that's kind of the total amount that would be spent. Our plan is to spend that money in small chunks. We'll do a run of merchandise, clothing, ideally sell that out, produce another run, ideally sell that out. The company that we're looking to work with has said that would be their preferred way of doing business as well, and that protects us from having a whole glut of inventory at the end of it that sits there unsold. So
the souvenir program exactly. What does it entail? What's a souvenir?
So it's the souvenir program was just the name that we kind of latched onto it. It's going to be about a 30 to 40 page publication. Bilingual. It'll be a staple bound publication that'll have a high quality cover, something that can stand up to the test of time. It'll be color graphics, color photos within it. Again, the text will be bilingual, so you'll have you can imagine, an 8 by 11 sheet with a photo, a spiel of French text, a spiel of English text. Right now, we're just developing the storyline itself. We expect that there's a lot of stories floating around about the old bridge. We were hearing a bunch of them last night, and that was entertaining. But there's also a story to be told about the new bridge and what the community did to get that off the ground, and we want to recognize that. When you speak to Peter Crowell, one of the things he says is missing with respect to the old bridge is the story of the people who built that bridge, and we're hoping to capture that story for our new bridge in this publication.
Great, sorry, that totally does answer my question.
Doesn't? Or
No,
does?
it does.
Okay.
It does. Yeah, great, thanks.
Great, no problem.
Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, some of it's already been addressed when you mentioned the history part. I was gonna mention Peter Kroll. If I remember rightly, like, history is something I enjoy. I read a book years ago, A History of Glenwood and Argyll, I believe, Andrew Ricker. Are you familiar with it?
That's the first time
It
I've,
seems to me I remember reading something in that book about the bridge when it was put in place. The book was written in the 40s.
Andrew Wicker?
Andrew Ricker. So Peter Kroll would have a copy of that at the archives. So
Yeah.
it's just, if you want to make a note of that, it's something you can look up.
I appreciate that. Thank you very
Okay.
much. The archives, I have to say, has been really supportive. We've only begun having conversations with them. But no, they, again, another fantastic asset for this project, so.
I hope I'm right, because I remember reading something about the bridge, like, some local history book, and I'm hoping and I'm thinking it was that book.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Councillor Muse.
Some of my questions were answered as well. Wondering about the funds.
Yes,
I mean, where else are the funds coming from? I mean, I know you're going to be submitting here, but I'm sure you're going to need more than what we can probably provide.
Certainly. Well, and we're hoping we really don't want this to be an expensive event.
No.
And so we are relying significantly on the community in terms of volunteers. I've met recently with Brenda Legrandeur, who was just, again, a huge support, and was very helpful in helping me find relevant grants to be applying for. So we will be applying to the province for appropriate grants. With respect to the community legacy gift, which is something that's just a tentative plan at this point, there's a federal government program that we're researching. It's a legacy fund is what, I can't remember the full name of it right now, but that might be another source of funds for that portion of our project. But realistically, if we take out the community legacy gift portion of it, we expect through both the provincial and municipal grants and the funds generated by the souvenir program to more than be enough to defray the costs. And of course, what I didn't mention is any additional funds that are remaining at the end of this project would be, by virtue of the mandate of the committee, would be donated to a local community group.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Surratt.
Just one last thing, just for information
Sure.
to the councillors and the people out there, that we're planning also possibly of a time capsule to put in the bridge, and maybe in 100 years, somebody may open that. Somebody suggested I put my teeth in there, but I said not yet. But anyhow, so we're in the plans of doing that.
Yeah.
I know it's on camera.
I don't know how really we should respond to that, but
You can keep your teeth.
but having seen no more lights on, obviously, everybody that wanted to talk had a chance, so
Thank you very
if you
much.
had anything else to,
That's everything.
we would like to thank you again for your presentation, and sounds like it's going to be, might be the signature event of the summer.
I'm telling you, the island's the place to be.
There you go.
Thanks
Thank
a lot,
you.
guys. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Second?
Yeah.
Just a second here, I guess. CA Muse?
Corey, great presentation. Just to make sure, the grants to organizations forms are online.
Yep.
So that's probably what you'll have to fill out, and it's deadline is typically the middle of April.
Yeah,
So
so it's,
they're ready to go. So if you want to fill that in now, that's
thank
perfect.
you very much. I
and-
appreciate it.
Yeah, just didn't want you to miss the deadline.
A1.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to number 4, adoption of minutes. 4A is the EMO meeting of December 4th, 2013. Moved by Councillor Muse, seconded by Councillor Albright. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Okay, motion carried. 4B is the regular council meeting, January 14th, 2014.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Murphy, seconded by Councillor Book. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Okay. 4C is the committee of whole meeting, January 28th, 2014.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Surratt and seconded, I guess, by Councillor Book. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Okay. Move on to number 5, is business arising from the minutes. 5A, municipal boundary review. And I think that one is Mr. Chris Ferratin that has a few things to tell us, I do believe. There you go, recorder.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. As you can see on the schedule that's attached to the agenda, this is the proposed schedule that the staff committee came up with after we had discussions on looking, number one, at what we wanted to do or would like to do in terms of public consultation and information and all those types of things, and with the amount of time that we had left. Obviously, December 31st of this year being the deadline. So you can see the general timeline on the top and the more, I guess, detailed timeline in the table that's presented there. When we had the discussion about the timeline and the type of public consultations that we wanted to do, we thought it would be a good idea to present or to go to the public twice. And the reason being for that is that the first time we would present to the public the options that you approved at the last meeting or last couple meetings, and get their opinions and feedback on that, write a report, present it to you, and then if there would be changes that would have to be made, we would make them, then go back to the public and present them another time. So you can see that by public consultations round 1 and public consultations round 2. So after all of the public consultations, our deadline that we propose here is June 30th. So all of the public consultations in the report would be done by June 30th. And that would leave us enough time to develop the draft boundary report that we would present to the UARB. So that there would be a draft report, it would be presented to you, and then we would review the report and then submit it. So that's the timeline that we came up with and what we hope to accomplish through that timeline. I can go in detail a little bit of the public consultations, but we did come up with a few things that we would like to do. We actually worked on one today, this morning, but I can answer any questions in more detail if you'd like.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Chris Ferratin?
Just to conclude, this is obviously something that the committee proposes to you, so we did include a suggested motion on the bottom, just so to approve the timeline. Thank you.
Also move the suggested motion with the proposed schedule for public consultation process for the 2014 boundary review.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess it was moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Muse. Question, Councillor Surratt.
Chris, maybe I should have asked this first, I guess. With the public consultation round 1, do you have anything concrete, before I go and vote on this, anything concrete as far as, is it going to be a mailing, is it going to be at a school, is it going to be public there with people in front?
Yep, that's a very good question. We don't have details as to exactly where it will be or what kind of meeting it would be, but what we've discussed in our meetings is that we would have obviously a public meeting. Where that would be or in what places is undetermined yet. We have discussed obviously using social media, so using Facebook and Twitter as much as we can. because our goal of this public consultation is to keep everyone informed as often as possible. Even if it's a little bit of information, it's better just to get it out there than keep it all until we have a lot. And obviously our website, we will be making a specific page on our website solely for the boundary review. So if anyone does have any questions, instead of either everyone selling something a little different, we can always direct them to the website, the page, and they'll always get the updated information there. We actually have made a bit of a schedule of videos that we will be launching through Facebook and our website, and we started one this morning. So all of that put together, we're hoping will be a good package for the public to stay informed. And that's in round one. So round two will be a bit less of a public consultation, but will still include meetings.
Thank you.
Councillor Muse.
These consultation meetings, are we looking at one big meeting with to include the municipality, or are we looking at maybe meetings in different locations, different areas to try and capture the people from those areas? Sometimes if you have a meeting in a one meeting, you may not get the outside of the municipality to attend as much, but if you go to the different communities sometimes, and I'm wondering if that was kind of looked at.
We agree with that, and CEO Muse can add on this if he'd like. We did talk about a few different options that we had. We think we could use an option that CEO Muse already said and go to the communities that would be the most affected.
Yeah.
We talked about that, and we also talked about having more than one meeting and not just one big meeting,
Okay.
because that would allow more people to attend.
Exactly.
And would not, I guess, bunch everyone together in one meeting, because obviously there are different communities that have different concerns. I don't know if CEO Muse would like to add on that.
I totally agree. I think, what we're trying to do is we have 3 or 4 measurements that we have to put into one when we make this decision. One of them is community of interest. And so because an option is going from 9 to 7, we're making considerable changes potentially, assuming that 7 is what the community wants and if council agrees. So if those changes are in fact implemented, then we have to go to the communities to understand if we got it right or not.
Because that was a question that was asked to me by a member of my district, who said that they would hope that if their community is affected, that we would have a meeting in their community. That was his, his comments, that especially if they're affected.
Yeah. No, there is definitely a plan for multiple meetings in different communities, and there is definitely a plan to have one location, being the website, for all of the information to be harbored. So anybody who wants to, get information, this isn't just about, our public consultation process isn't just about hearing from the public.
No.
It's also about informing and educating the public.
Exactly.
Because there are, quite frankly, there's confusion sometimes around what's a provincial boundary and what's a municipal boundary, and we just went through a boundary review provincially. So it has the potential to be confusing, and so we want to make sure that our residents are as informed as possible. And we are exceeding the standard for public consultation as defined by the UARB. So we want to make sure that we exceed that standard.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, that brings me back to my informal survey I done when you talk about educating the public. My informal survey of asking 27 people of how many councillors there was on Argyle Council, not one of them got it right, so there needs to be some education.
Absolutely. Good point.
All
In my
right.
district.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, I 27 people, I can't change what it was.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Did you press your button again?
By accident.
Okay,
I'll turn it off here.
there, okay. All right, so that's the municipal boundary review. 5B, grants to organizations policy, and that would be CA Muse.
At our last meeting, we had a discussion on this. I think you were ready to pass it then, and then I reminded council that we needed notice. So you've been given notice. Clearly, you can discuss it again today if you wish, but there's been no changes since the last meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the new policy for grants to organizations after the deadline.
Okay, been moved and seconded. No discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to number 6, which is Warden's report, but the Warden's not here. I think you've been circulated with his report. Move on to number 7, which is Councillor's report. Councillor Book.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Nikhil. They're on schedule. Might as well say they're only 6 days behind and they're within budget, which is very good. That was last month's report, and everything seems to be going good. I just wanted to report that about Nikhil.
Okay. Councillor LeBlanc.
Very quickly, we had a meeting, or we had several meetings in the last few months with the Argyle Economic Development Committee, not to be confused with the committee for just the Tuscan exit, but I'd just like to mention quickly that a lot of great ideas have come up, different things we can do for the municipality. A couple of things, our focus seemed to have turned to tourism for the time being. We're an economic development committee, but we felt with the ferry, coming into town, hopefully next May, that was kind of the shift everyone had, was towards tourism. So different options are being looked at tourism to promote Argyle, to help Argyle attract. No problem. Different options have been put up to help Argyle attract tourists. Sorry. And another focus, one subject that comes up a lot is mink farming. Nothing of substance is developed yet, but it's always something that's thrown around. It's a very controversial issue. Some people are for it, some people aren't. And we just kind of raise the topic off and on. What can we do to, either promote it or make it a, less negative impact on our communities and whatnot, but helping out the tax revenue for the municipality, as well as promoting industry when we can. So a lot of interesting topics come up there, as well as I'm sure maybe the other councillors want to touch on the Exit 33 committee as well. But there's been a lot of movement there, which is a positive thing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Muse.
I guess I'm on the other committee, the Exit 33, and what we've done as well as the steering committee, I guess, or the main committee, we try to not to overlap as much as we can. That we're working on something that they're working on as well. We try to stay away from that. What we did is we divided what we called, I guess we called it a bucket list, and it's a weird word for it, but it kind of fit what we were doing. And we asked for priorities of each committee member towards. In one area there was the more the beautification and the tourism side of it, and the other side was the economic development more side of it, business side of it. And there's 8 members. There's 8 members who replied. I think there's 8 members in our committee that replied, and we were split 4 on one, 4 on the other. So we tried to accommodate both groups within our meeting, and so we don't always concentrate just on tourism or just on economic development as well. So it's working pretty good. We had a meeting last week. Very, very good comments. We were a very small group. A lot of the members couldn't make it, but we had a small group, but we had very, very good discussions, very good ideas, and it's coming along very, very well. With the on the tourism side of it, of course, with the boat coming, we'd like to have something done as much as we can for the tourist season. However, it's not, there are things that are just gonna take time, like signage, for instance. You just don't put up a sign, you just don't ask for a sign today and you get it tomorrow. It's a long process. And whether we'll have anything for this, especially for the start of the ferry run, probably very, very unlikely. It's probably a year project. I don't know. We don't know if it's going to happen this year, but if we don't work on it, we don't get it. And if it means that we work on it and we get it in a year, we get it in a year. But we've had very good ideas. We've got very good members on the committee on both sides, for the tourism part and for the economic development. So that's where we stand right now. We're trying to meet as often as we can to get things rolling. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Muse. Next one, I think, was Councillor Albright.
We had a recreation priority setting meeting. We had one last month where we kind of went through and decided on the piece of infrastructure which most needed work. So we shortlisted to about 5 different things. And at our last meeting, we set out what needs to be done, who we're going to engage to get that work done, what it's going to cost, and our timelines. So we realized that the tennis court project is the next thing to be completed because it hasn't been completed yet. But just so you kind of have the heads up, there will be an ask coming along also because we've pinpointed 5 different pieces that we'd like to work on. And as you said, we kind of did a wish list. If we could have this, what would we like to have? What would we need to make those pieces of infrastructure the best possible? So that's coming up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Surratt.
Just a few things to add on some of my activities. We had a meeting with Waste Check just past Monday, and I'm happy to report that they seem to have found $50,000 on the budget we can add on the revenue side. So the scare that I was seeing was coming to council with they were going to come to council to request X amount of dollars, but there is money that's been added to the revenue side, and it was by terms of finding out on grants, MEP grants. CEO, what MEP is? What is that again?
It's a municipally assisted program, I believe, through the RRFB, through the Recovery Fund Board, which is the provincial body that collects the 5-cent deposits from our
So they found 50,000. Found it. I guess it's. I think our CEO was involved in that quite a bit. But anyhow, in finding that, so at least we won't be coming to council for a huge amount of money as we had previously looked at. Also, was at a meeting with the Industrial Commission, which the CAO has on his report, but I guess for the public maybe that may not read that, the work is on the ferry terminal, quite heavy. A lot of work is being done there. I don't want to steal any of your shout, CAO, on your report, but and anyhow, they're working on the clinics to have the 2 clinics, Pubnico Clinic and the Harbour South Clinic, to have their own operations, board of directors on that. And also the ports of Yarmouth that the Industrial Commission is watching over. They're trying to get a board to take care of that. So it'll be out of the Industrial Commission, maybe down the road what's going to happen to the Industrial Commission. We're not sure, but we will not have those 2 items, the ports and the clinics, which will be taken away, which will be a huge help. Also, the Waste Park had their monthly meeting. An issue that's come up at the Waste Park, they have bales of residual that come in. They're all baled. I don't know how many tons there's in these bales all compacted, but they open them and then they'll spread them out in the landfill. Anyhow, they found a lot of plastics, a lot of paper, a lot of recyclables in there. So we're addressing that. We've got a bale there that's in one of the sheds now that we're going to open. I believe it's going to be on Friday. The board is going to go there, have a look at what's there, and we don't know what's going on. It seems to have picked up lately, and the workers have picked up on that, and they know where they're coming from. So I guess we have to have a look at it, take pictures, and decide what we're gonna do on that, because that's costing us as taxpayers money when you're putting recyclables instead of going to the recycling, to the RF, to the recycling. It is not processed, so it's costing us money. The other item, we had a meeting today with the municipal alcohol program, and we've got the RCMP on board, the school board, CSAP, Tri-County School Boards on board, and we did our terms of reference for this. We're gonna have roughly 30 students. I kind of spoke a little bit about it a couple of meetings ago. There'll be about 30 students from Yarmouth, from the Yarmouth High School, Paramba, and also Drummond Heights. And we'll be meeting, we've decided to meet at Camp Penile for a two-night, I guess, team building, get the students' idea of what's going on out there as far as alcohol, you know, between the internet, Facebook, and all this stuff. You know, there's the RCMP were telling us some of the stuff that they see that goes on. You would just turn your stomach, what they were showing us today. Anyhow, get the youths involved, and like I said previously, make a presentation to each council of what the youth have done, make a presentation here. So it should be a worthwhile project, and I said it before, I'll say it again, it's not costing us, the taxpayers anything. It was a grant from the health and wellness. That's what I've got.
Thank you, Councillor Surratt. Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I'd just like to touch on the Yarmouth Area Industrial Commission. I see Alan's got it in his report, but there is a move afoot, if you want to put it that way, of taking the ferry terminal and the Port of Yarmouth assets and developing them into one corporation. And at some point, I would like this council to have a discussion on that, because what it means is Argyle municipal tax dollars will be going to repair wharfs in Yarmouth. We have 12 or 13 wharfs in the municipality of Argyle that we don't fund in any way, shape, or form. It's all done through the port committees and small crafts and harbors. So does Argyle want to be part ownership of wharfs like Lobster Rock Wharf and the public wharf in Yarmouth? And to me, it's a tricky way of doing things, rolling the ferry terminal in with the ports. Like, it almost makes us sound like we're not in favor of working with the ferry terminal, but you got to take the wharfs along with it. And personally, I'm not in favor, but I'd like to know what council thinks as a whole, so us voting members on that committee can vote the way council wants us to vote on that. So at some future meeting in the near future, I'd like to discuss that on the agenda when we know more about this corporation. Is that fair? Does that?
That sounds
You
good.
want, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to add, I guess, the West Pamlico sewer treatment plant. You guys, I'm sure, have been made aware by myself of the smell since we've had the dewatering system, and we're hoping, or we're thinking, that one of the bags, that the GO2s they call them, some of the I guess the solid waste that was put in there had gone septic. So today, actually, the engineers from CBCL were there, and they actually climbed on top of this GO2. It's a big bag full of stuff, and they punched a little hole and actually dug in with a little shovel and took some samples. So the samples are going to one of the labs, and we will find out if the bag is septic. And I'm keeping my fingers that that's the problem, and that we in the future can regulate how we, I guess, put the stuff in the bag, and that we won't have the smell. The wintertime, not too bad because it's cold. In the summertime, it's nice and warm and sunny, not very good. So anyway, and I get to hear about it all the time. So anyway, so we're hopeful that that's the problem. So okay, all right. We'll move on to number 8, which is a CAO report. You've all been circulated with it. Councillor Muse, CA Muse, you will probably have a few things to add.
3 or 4, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
Mr. Chair and Deputy Warden. Just wanted to mention the Regional Enterprise Network is having an open house tomorrow at 5 o'clock in Clare. And so the REN board members will be officially, I guess, meeting for the first time informally. There'll be a meal for them, a welcoming meal, which apparently will have Digby scallops. Just saying, it's regional economic development, and so apparently that's on the menu. So anyway, that's not important. Anyway, so the REN members will be meeting for the first time, and of course the liaison committee, which includes Lucien, will also be in attendance. And then the rest of council, if you're able and willing, are invited for an after-dinner informal meet and greet, just to, to show your support for this new organization. There'll be a press release coming out, probably done by the province, because they're our partners on this project. So they'll be doing that. And so there's still the matter of the intermunicipal agreement that needs to be approved by all councils. We have been, while our work on it has been delayed in the months of January, and I guess now we're into February, we'll be hitting that very hard and trying to bring that to your attention as soon as possible. I expect realistically that would be, I guess, as early as the end of this month. More than likely it would be the first meeting of March regular council. I'd love to be able to get that approved, and so that we can get that moving and actually create that organization. That work was delayed by, of course, the nomination and recruitment of the board of directors. And also, we have an outstanding application to the province of Nova Scotia for funding. And so it's difficult for us to move forward with engaging consultants to hire a CEO for the REN if we don't know whether or not the province is going to be fiscally supporting. Now, we're confident that they will. They said that they would, but we have to have that approval in order to start that ball rolling. So that's holding us back a little bit. The Declaration of Cooperation was signed by all 6 members, which is the 2 Digbys, the 2 Yarmouths, Municipality of Clare, and ourselves. So the initial Declaration of Cooperation that you had approved for signature, that really started the ball rolling on all this work. So I continue to play a role in moving this thing forward. And so we're almost there. So we expect that the REN will be up and running as early as April. That would be ideal. Realistic, perhaps early May. So depending on that timing. Also, I wanted to mention the Argyle Economic Development committees have really had a lot of good discussions. They haven't spent any money yet, and we had earmarked some funds this year. So we're going to look to take that money and transfer some of it into the new year, so that we have that money available for them and we don't lose any momentum. There has been quite a few discussions informal with ACOA around some of the projects that could potentially come out of this, and we are having very positive conversations with them, so that's very encouraging. One of the things I think I would mention, and I think it's in Brenda's report as well, is the fact that we have Roger D'Entremont from the village as one of our members and one of our committee, and we said, look, if we can't get the signage, if we can't get the signage to attract people to come to our region, we can get people in strategic places when they come off the boat or when they get on the boat, to encourage our visitors to come and visit Argyle and what we have to offer. So that actually is underway, and Roger has led that, which is impressive. And what I can see is that he is securing multiple options for funding there. So that's actually very encouraging. It would probably, it could be a municipal employee. It probably won't be, but we would probably be in some way participating in that process as part of our economic development strategy. That's coming from our community. So I thought that was quite encouraging. West Pubnico Sewer Dennis Point Extension, that project has changed drastically. I think I've mentioned that before. We are in the process of getting some documentation up and running. We will be bringing a wastewater district bylaw to your attention for approval as soon as it's ready. So what that will do is, that's actually a separate wastewater district from the regular West Pubnico sewer district, because the way that it's going to work is actually quite different than the standard wastewater handling. It's going to be handled more on site. It will not be straight piped all the way to our treatment facility, and the reason is, quite frankly, cost. So we're trying to to deal with any sort of potential environmental situation there. Clearly, we want to make that a better situation. Not that it's bad, it's just, you know, there's a lot at stake in that area. We want to make sure that the wastewater is properly handled. So that project is still very much alive. It's just been delayed and will continue in the spring. And I mean, there's a lot of other things on the report, but those are the areas I wanted to focus on just to give you some clarity around some of the bigger issues.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Yeah, could you just touch very quickly on that? Having yourself spend so much time doing great work, actually setting up the new REN, can you touch on how Argyle is going to get reimbursed, I should say, in a sense, for having you devote some of your energy towards this project?
Actually, as part of the application for funding, there is a request to reimburse administrative fees or an administration fee back to the municipality of Argyle. I've developed the budget, and puts me kind of in a biased position. It doesn't come to me; it comes to the municipality, and so. But I made it very clear to the REN group that was there because there was a considerable amount of effort put into the REN, and there were costs associated with that. So that will mean that the REN this year will probably not cost us anything after we inject our contribution and receive our refund. It will be about even. So.
Yeah, I was aware of that. I just wanted everyone else to be. I guess.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's just fair. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's totally fair.
And our members, our partners were extremely supportive of that.
Makes sense.
Okay. Anything else, CAMUs? Any more questions? Nope. All right, we'll move on to other business, number 9. For a decision or a discussion, 9A is relief of taxes and interest requests. And again, that's you with CAMUs.
Yes, as you know, we are doing some cleanup of our accounts, and we're working very closely with PVSC, spending a lot of time with them, perhaps against their own will, but we're still using their services, which we pay for. And this is another example of a relief of taxes because the account has been made inactive by land registration. So it's no longer on the roll. So there's no way for us to collect it. It's actually a fictitious account in some way, shape, or form because it was an error on the part of the PVSC. However, we cannot write this off without council's approval, so we're asking you to approve. And so the total being requested for relief is $594, and I should add that $300 of that is includes 2 years of tax sale expenses that we allocated to this property. That we do when we bring a property to tax sale. We allocate $150 of admin fees, which include reimbursements for legal and advertising costs. So that's not actually a property tax bill. However, it is a levy against the property, or a lien against the property.
Okay, anybody care to
I'll make
move?
the motion to relief of $594.09.
Seconded.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Move on to 9B, Community Litter Cleanup Program, 2014-2015. That's been a good program over the past few years.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't know if CA Muse, you got anything else to add other than nothing different than?
The same budget?
Same budget amount. Yep.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Murphy. Councillor Surratt, you had something to add?
No, they already moved it.
Okay, all right. Okay, you've heard the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Okay, carried. 9C, promotional video request. This one's an interesting one. CA Muse.
Thank you. There's an additional attachment at the end of this. We had a bit of a technical issue this morning, so you may or may not have seen it. So I'll spend a little time just going over the last piece, which is the actual proposal submitted by Deep Blue Media, which is a local firm. And so this request is actually for two separate promotional items. With the introduction, or I guess release of the strategic plan, we would like to design, or I guess promote what we're trying to achieve in our municipality over the next 5 years or more. And so every year I've budgeted on your behalf, put in a budgeted line for strategic planning initiatives. Because we know that if we're going to do something specific that's different than what we did before, that it could potentially cost money. Last year we budgeted 10,000 and we spent zero. This year we budgeted 10,000, and what we've proposed is actually to spend that money. And so there are two things in particular that we're proposing for council's consideration. One is a video, and so the video, as explained in the request for the decision, isn't just about releasing the strategic plan. It's actually about selecting key people in our community to talk about Argyle. And so the concept is that we would, using our strategic plan, we would get 3 types of people in Argyle to speak about our community, so that would be combined with a lot of really nice, video footage, etc. Deep Blue identifies 3 groups: the long timer, the boomeranger, and the entrepreneur. And I thought that was kind of clever, is that in the sense that it's basically looking at 3 types of people who have either left and come back, or never left. And so we have a lot of very interesting and clever people in the municipality of Argyle that could really promote this place effectively. What we found was, we did look at other pricing, and what we found was that Deep Blue Media really understood what we're trying to do. And so this video, after it's completed, would allow us to, of course it would be on our social media, it would be available online and for the world to see. So we're really kind of excited about this, because we think that this is an investment that I think could pay us dividends. The second piece is the printing of a promotional booklet. This is actually directly as a result. We were actually doing this work before, and what we did was we looked at the 50 things to do in Argyle, because we knew the ferry was coming back. And for those of you who saw the Roger Brooks presentation, one of the things he said was there was Idaho or somewhere, I don't remember where, they had done up a book, and it was 50 things to do in Idaho, let's say. And so what it was is, you take a stroll in the park, and after you're done, you go to this restaurant, and you have the best burger in town. So this is, and he said it was like a resounding success. So we're looking to do that, but at a much smaller scale. Like, that was like a binder book, and it was very expensive. And so this is actually not not a pilot project, because we think it'll work quite well, but it's not to the extent that was done in other communities. But it's the same concept, and so it's basically to tell the people that come off the boat, look, if you want to have an experience, here are 50 things that you can do, and it drives them exactly where they need to go, and also drives them to where they can eat, or where they can go see a museum at the same time. So those are the 2 requests that are included in the request for decision. We want to stay within the budget. So if the costs are different than what the budget says, we'll print less booklets. We want to stay within our predetermined budget for strategic objectives, and that would exhaust that budget for the year. There's nothing else this year that would be proposed for that line item.
What's the figure?
Councillor LeBlanc, sorry.
I won't lie, when I first read this on the agenda, I kind of thought 10,000 was rather a bit costly. Did a little bit of legwork and talked to a few people who knew more about making videos and whatnot. They thought we'd be getting a bang for our buck, and actually convinced me that it was a good idea. And I actually ended up talking to a councillor in the Cheticamp area, and I kind of thought that was interesting, because I was thinking it's sort of the same perspective as we are. We're at each end of the province, Acadian culture and whatnot. And they've done something similar quite a few years back, and they felt like they got every little bit of their penny's worth. He couldn't remember exactly what it was. It was somewhere in that price range between 5 and 15, let's say, type thing. And he thought it was an exceptional idea, and it really did. I mean, when you think about it, it is quite a bit of money, but for what you get in return, if it does help promote our area, and again with you know, hopefully the influx of tourists in May, I fully support this. I think it's after doing a little bit of research, the initial number kind of shocked me, but I think, you know, we'd be getting a bang for our buck.
I'd like, if I may, I'd like to clarify the just so that everybody's clear. There are two requests. The video is 5,786, and the promotional booklet is 4,172. So I didn't want any confusion around, because there's actually 2 in 1 there. So I just want to be clear.
Okay. Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I was much the same as Lucian. At first I went on, they done one on the town of Lunenburg, so I went on YouTube and looked at it. And Lunenburg has a lot higher profile than Argyle as World Heritage Community. A lot more people know about Lunenburg than they do Argyle, is what I'm trying to say. And the video was made well over a year ago, and it hasn't even got 20,000 hits. And so YouTube's not the place to put it. So if you plan on using it, like in other ways, don't rely on YouTube, because that's not very many hits in over a year, 20,000 hits. So that's it.
Okay.
I think it's going to be used in other ways that will be more favorable for Argyle, like on the ferry and whatnot. So I'm on side.
Okay. Councillor Surratt.
Just want to clarify that I see on the end of the deep blue, there's an amount of $4,850. That's not over and above, is it? The 10,000. They've got $4,850 here for 4 shoots and everything on their cost, and so that's the same amount. That comes with the same amount of the 10,000, is it?
The 4850 that you see in their report is also included at ours.
Okay.
What we have put as well is our portion of HST, because this does not include HST in their report. Which is,
Contingency.
and then a contingency in case we like what we see, but we want him to go and do a little bit more. So it's an extra $700 there, whether he needs it or, you know, just as a contingency. We probably won't use it, but it just allows us the opportunity to.
That's, and that's the amount, it's in there. Oh yeah, I support that, no problem. Yeah.
What's the time to make a motion?
Councillor Albright.
I was just curious where will the booklets be? The video will be on the website and YouTube or whatever, but what about the booklets?
The booklets, we hope to distribute that at our tourism stakeholders, at our tourism locations, also at the ferry terminal.
Mm-hmm.
If we have that staff person that Roger was trying to secure funding for, that person could also distribute those promotional materials at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a concrete plan, but that would be the types of places that we would leave that. And of course, it's actually a nice booklet for our residents, because our residents probably, there's some people that don't know what the 50 best things are to do in Argyle, so it's actually a piece for them to be educated. So when a tourist comes to their store, for example, and says, look, what's there to do in Argyle, they could pull that out and say, look, you should go to this today. So it also allows our people to be ambassadors on our behalf as the people come in. So for that purpose, we would distribute it in different places now, and 2,500 copies will probably be eaten. I'm hoping they'll be eaten up this season. I guess we'll see how successful it is.
All right.
I make the suggested motion.
Okay.
Second it.
Okay, the suggested motion is to invest up to 10,000 in video and promotional booklets in support of our strategic objectives and in preparation for the return of the ferry service to our area. Is that the one?
That's the one.
All right, so it's been moved by Councillor Johnson and seconded by Councillor Book. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Okay. Go to 9D, Act of Bravery. I think that was brought by you, Councillor Albright.
I just wanted to mention that there was a resident in my district who actually saved another resident in my district from drowning. And I wondered if there was something that we could do to recognize him for that, like we did previously at another council meeting. I just kind of wanted to bring it up, see what you guys thought, see if it was a possibility. Okay.
Councillor Surratt?
Councillor Albright, anything that's been documented and it's, something's been documented and, or whatever, or it's not hearsay, somebody can be there to verify, that's, like we did with the Westport situation and the one in East Pubnico.
I will make sure that there is.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? So I guess what's, the suggestion is to bring it back to council with, I guess I'm trying to think what we did with the last one. So maybe Councillor Boat, you can kind of, did the legwork.
Just before our regular meeting, we had a presentation. We gave out presentations to people that did acts of goodwill and good deeds and whatever. So we gave them a plaque of recognition and thanked them and had them speak about their experience.
I think that would be great, yeah.
Okay. I guess, Mr. Chris Robin.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, we don't have a specific criteria or description of what it was called the Outstanding Citizenship Award that we had given. So if you could provide either some information and details, we can then produce the plaque and get the presentation for the next meeting or so.
Okay, I will do that.
That's what we had done for the others, if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right? Okay? Good. I'm gonna leave your light on because the next one is the 9E, which is the SAR boat, and that was yours again,
Yes.
Councillor Albright.
Okay, I'm just pulling something up here. There is a boat, if any of you have driven through the community of Eel Brook, you've probably noticed a really old boat that is it's just kind of, it used to be tucked to the wharf, but in the before Christmas, when we had a big snowstorm, it kind of got pulled in to the water. Number one, it's an eyesore. It's been an eyesore forever. Nobody seems to really claim ownership of the boat, and nobody seems to really want to do anything to get rid of the boat, but I've had some residents who really want the boat gone. And I completely agree with them. We have an oyster farm in that same lake that is, a very viable resource, and we don't know the potential threats to that. So just kind of looking for direction. CEO Muse and I have spoke, and we don't know, is it our responsibility? Is it Department of Natural Resources' responsibility to get rid of that? Kind of looking for some guidance, some discussion on that. What should we do? We received, I can say about the letter we received. We received a letter from Nolan Dayon, who does have his oyster farm, and he went a little step further to provide the cost of what it would be to remove that boat from the water, because he's really worried about how it may there may be some potential effects for his oyster farm. And we don't know. I've contacted the Coast Guard about it. There was some citizens who thought maybe there was even fuel leaking from it. Who knows? It's been there since I was a little girl. I always remember seeing that boat there, but it's an eyesore. Nobody's claiming it, so what do we do about it?
Okay. Solicitor Rayal Boudreau.
I haven't spoken to the CAO about this, so if I'm talking out of turn, the CAO will jump on me, and that's fine. Perhaps it would be a good starting point to invite the Public Works Department pursuant to the dangerous and unsightly premises provisions to do an investigation and coordinate it perhaps with my assistance in trying to determine who the owner of that boat is, how it got there and whatnot, and to see if we do have jurisdiction to do anything about it by virtue of that, and if not, then pass it on to the appropriate authorities at whatever government level is necessary in order to be able to achieve a proper resolution of that. Now, that having been said, I'm not sure if by having provided that letter that Mr. Dayon from Eel Lake Oysters is somehow making an offer to the municipality on a contractual basis to deal with that. I don't want to interfere with that whatsoever, but I'm just talking about what legal avenues may be available to the municipality at this point in time in order to deal with that. So that's my suggestion off the top of my head at this moment.
CA Muse?
Upon receipt of the letter from Nolan Dayon regarding that, was immediately forwarded to Public Works, and the instruction was to first contact Department of Natural Resources and Environment regarding this. I think this is a very unique situation, so each department is kind of going, well, it might, maybe it is, maybe it's not us. So from our perspective, from a dangerous and unsightly perspective, because it's in the water, the jurisdiction, ends for us at the water line. So from a jurisdictional perspective, it's not our jurisdiction. But could we be engaged if council was willing to participate financially in the removal of that boat? That would be, I think, effectively a decision of council. The issue of ownership is that the last person that is indicating that is owning that particular, well, I was going to call it a boat, but I don't know if it's a boat anymore, and is really denying ownership. So there was some arrangement that didn't actually complete. The transaction didn't complete for whatever reason. So I think, and the most recent information from Public Works is that they haven't received a response from those two departments as of yet. If council wishes to expedite the matter, it could make a motion tonight to write a letter from council rather than it coming from Public Works to ask each of those departments to take a position, because we need to understand whether, maybe the answer is no, but we need to know what the answer is in order to proceed one way or another. So that's an option at your disposition if you wish.
Councillor LeBlanc?
I was just going to mention that if there's a number painted on the side of that boat, an official number, you could easily trace through Transport Canada the last owner. But then I probably realized after, chances are you know who the last owner was, and okay.
Yeah.
I only thought after there is probably an issue there. Well, on a closing note, if there is even a possibility that it affects those oysters in that lake or in that area, that's an excellent business in our community. And I'd like to mention the most delicious oysters I've ever had, so I wouldn't want to see that compromise those oysters in any way. It's definitely, I'm not sure if it's a municipal issue, but it'd be nice to see it resolved. Hopefully we can do something about it.
Probably a provincial issue under
Yeah.
the Beaches Act. Probably under the Beaches
Okay.
Act, the province probably has jurisdiction in
Okay, Councillor Donaldson?
All my questions were answered, but I'll have a comment. When you start dealing with what we're talking about doing, we're talking months. If it's a relatively inexpensive fix, let's just do it. But I have no idea what the costs are gonna be, but, does anybody have any idea what it would cost? Is that,
Yes.
can it be made public now? or-
Yes. The information, we may have to get more than one bid, but the information that was provided by the letter in the complaint was about $3,000. That would include bringing the material to landfill. Three. Yeah. I think it's three.
The total,
Maybe.
I have 4,255.
I'm sorry.
With the HST and everything included.
Okay, so we get most of that back, but yeah, it's more than 3,000 though ultimately. Okay, my apologies.
So, I have a suggestion, go to 2 or 3 contractors that have equipment, like proposals, or, have bids. What's that called when you ask for proposals?
A request for, yeah.
Like,
or-
don't
yeah.
go to tenders, but you ask 3 companies what they would do the job for. And, we have Surratt-Namir, we have Russell Spinney, we have Geary D'Entremont, all that have the equipment that could remove that in less than a day,
Yes.
less than an hour, so.
Under our procurement policy, what would be required is a written request to price the job by at least 3 and we would have that. That would be easy to do from our perspective.
And we're not committed to following through with that, but at least we'd have the figures to move on if these other two departments don't act in a timely manner.
And if I may be bold to make a suggestion here, is if time is of the essence, and if that's what I'm gathering from council, you could do the work and bill the province. Then you could deal with that particular issue after. And if you're comfortable with that risk, I guess, the risk that you wouldn't get paid, that's also a possibility, that if your wish is to take care of it on behalf of the province, and then we can talk with the province about what that means for them, if it's their responsibility.
Councillor Surratt has his light on. We'll let him talk for a second.
I certainly do appreciate what Councillor Albright has brought up, and with Mr. Dion's concern. I guess number one, if we start removing boats all over our municipality, there's a lot of boats that are hanging around, that are sunk, and we maybe start setting a precedent by pulling up boats. I don't think it's the proper thing to do. To make it even further, what about if we start pulling that boat and something leaks and then we do poison these oysters? Where do we fit as a liability? That's certainly a concern, and I say, as soon as we go touch something that's not in our jurisdiction, it's in somebody else's jurisdiction, are we setting it ourselves up for, being sued or being liable for something, and everybody's gonna wash their hands and we're liable? I think we should keep clear of that. I think, Mr. Dion certainly has a concern, and I don't blame him, but how many boats are in the water that haven't poisoned anything that there's a lot of lobsters, and a lot of boats that sank, there's a lot of lobsters, and you never know what can happen, but, that's his word, I guess, and I certainly am not in favor of that, for us to touch that, because we'll be setting a precedent, and what's our liability on that? I'd be scared.
That's actually a very good point. We can do a little bit more searching,
Yes, I
but
think
there's nothing. Sorry, there's nothing that stops the municipality from getting multiple prices to keep that process going. But I think Councillor Surratt is right around caution.
He absolutely is, and I think leave it in the Public Works Department for, through their investigation, and come back with a report to the municipality at a later date with that consideration, that, again, to emphasize, that's a very good point that you raised, because there might be some liability issues. And also in engaging or even contemplating engaging, which is a laudable thing to do, but bearing in mind circumstances, but by engaging that, there's also the issue of what access they can have on a beach without, without the proper environmental department permits and all that. That's another issue that has to come into play. So, anyway, I think that your comments are well taken, Mr. Surratt, from the legal side.
Yeah, absolutely. So from our perspective, then, from our perspective around direction, am I to proceed? Is it the will of council to proceed at least with obtaining multiple quotes in order to expedite any sort of work? Whether we do it or not, we would have the information, or should we proceed with the as is, which is to say, go through the processes of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources?
I would look at legal. I would look at legal for sure before you go any further. What could be, where would we stand with this farm if something did happen? What's our legal issue? I can't answer that question.
All right, immediately, but I mean, there are consequences to act. There are potential consequences to acting and not acting both. So in order to be able to give you a proper opinion, I would require some time. But nonetheless, in the spirit of being cost effective for the municipality, I think that the investigations that your Public Works Department is doing with regards to other departments is where you should perhaps begin now, without incurring too many expenses at this point in time. I think that's one of the options, Alain, that you're suggesting. Either you look for contracts or you let your Public Works Department do other investigations. And that's what you're asking of council.
Yeah, I'm just trying to ensure that we respond the way the council wants us to respond. And one of the other options is, of course, to write a letter, perhaps from the political body, trying to expedite something from the provincial level. So those, I guess that's what you got in front of you in terms of options.
Go ahead.
I would, if Councillor Albright thinks this is okay, make a suggestion or make a motion that we write a letter to the, whether it be Coast Guard, Natural Resources, Department of Fisheries, Environment, well, not environment, but Natural Resources, Department of Fisheries and Coast Guard, and try to push them, see where they would go with this, how far, have a letter on record that we're asking them to address this. See where we go from there.
First, motion's been
I'll
made,
make that motion.
seconded by Councillor Donaldson. On the subject of getting quotes for removal, could we still go ahead with that? Would that, I guess, add leverage to our letter to say, look, this is what's going on. We've got local contractors that are giving us quotes for the removal. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Is that
After I suggested that, I sort of wished I hadn't because of what he brought up, environmental issues. You can't put equipment down into the edge of the lake, and I would wait and see till we hear back from the
Yes.
proper departments before we go to quotes.
okay?
So I'd like to take that suggestion off of you. Based on good information.
Okay. Any more discussion? Anything to add? CEO views?
No, only that if there was any sort of liability or environmental risks around that, if we subcontracted, they would of course be absorbing some of that risk as well, because the subcontractor would have certain responsibilities for permitting purposes. So, not to suggest that that's the course of action you should be taking. So I think that the motion on the floor is the proper.
Okay.
Motion on the floor is probably the proper course of action at this time, yeah.
So just so that we're clear again, the motion was to,
To send a letter to Department of Natural Resources, Department of Fisheries and Coast Guard to see if, if they could address and remove the boat themselves.
If I might make a suggestion, the
Yeah.
only suggestion would be to include the Department of Environment because of
Okay.
the potential of.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, just all of the departments that it could
Yes.
potentially touch to get an idea of, yeah.
okay?
Would it be,
Go ahead.
would it be okay to get a letter from the oyster farm to say that we'd not be liable? Let's say if this came and nobody wanted to do it in the council, wanted to move ahead, could we get a letter from the oyster farm, Nolan, saying that we are not responsible if the boat is moved? If anything happens to his oysters,
What's out of our jurisdiction, so I mean.
you would be out of our jurisdiction anyhow, okay? No, okay.
Well,
no.
it's an interesting question because I think what I would
He's
probably
looking
do, what I would probably do is ask Nolan permission to forward his letter to these departments because they should be aware that this is
Yes.
coming from a business, not just random council making a decision around an ugly boat.
Yes,
There are actually legitimate business reasons why this is an issue.
absolutely.
All right, so we're all clear?
Yep.
So it's been moved by Councillor Surratt, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Okay, move on to number 10, correspondence and for information. Minutes of January 9th, 2013. Is that correct?
Yeah, it says there 2014 says.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I guess I printed it and it says 13. Okay, I'll have to change it there. Good. Okay, so minutes of January 9th, 2014, Yarmouth International Airport Corporation. So these are just for correspondence and information. We don't have to move them, it's just for information. 10B is the waste check minutes of January 13th, 2014. And then 10C is Nova Scotia RCMP 2012, 2013 year in review. I don't know if anybody had anything to add on that one. 10D's Order of Nova Scotia Memorandum. Order of Nova Scotia. And then 10E's Commissioner of Nova Scotia Corps Rapport. F is the Société des Jeux d'Acadie, the launch of the selection process.
Are we applying? Don't think so.
That's up to you, sir.
No, sir, no, just a joke. Kathy? No, I don't think so.
I should, up
You're on your own.
up to you councillors, I should say.
Chris?
Yeah, if I look around the table here, I think almost everybody here
Involved.
was involved, directly or indirectly, most
Yes.
of us directly. But after 2 years, I'm not sure we're ready to tackle it again. Okay. Maybe in a few years, Claire will be the recipients, and then we'll have to give them a hand, so.
Yeah.
Okay, 10G is Feed Nova Scotia. Any comments? 46 pages. Okay. We'll move on to number 11, financial requests. Bay of Fundy Sea Kayaking Symposium. Okay. Now we passed our grants to organize, or we changed our grants to organization policy, and it was kind of for this request. So bring it up here. If you look at their budget, they've got a total of $50,890. The request from us, from our request from you or from the municipality, a total of $7,500. Okay. Councillor Dawson.
Yes, we've discussed this several times and seen the presentation, and it seemed like it was, like council was ready to approve it, and then we had to make the policy change so we could actually do it. So I will finally make the motion to approve their request of $7,500.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Just wondering, I've got a question for CAO Muse. The $7,500 that they are requesting would come out of where? Do we know?
Yes, I think we established that that's not budgeted this year. So that will be an unbudgeted line item at your approval. And we're confident that it'll come out of the current year surplus. So it will not impact future years' situation. The fact that you're dealing with it now allows us perhaps to go to the symposium and ask them to submit a grant for the year after, or to make arrangements so that we can actually have them participate in our grants to organizations policy the proper way.
Yeah, that way we won't have to use the policy,
Use the exception to the rule.
That's right.
We would use the rule.
That's right, yep. So, all right, any more discussion? Having heard none, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay. Number 12, notice of motion by councillors. Councillor LeBlanc, I see your light's on?
Yes, it is. I'm just going to mention that at our next council meeting, I'm going to be bringing up again, not that it's been brought up earlier by myself, but by Councillor Muse, the issue of, not the issue, but the subject of streetlights. I've been hearing streetlights is a common question that people have. Why don't we have streetlights? Why do we have streetlights? I know there's 1,000,001 restrictions and red tape around streetlights, but if we don't talk about it, it's never going to be, talked about. I know Councillor Muse brought it up. I think you had residents of your district mention it to yourself. I'm also fully aware that it's been brought up in the past, but I wasn't here in the past, and I kind of like to, at least bring the conversation up. So I'll be bringing that up at a future meeting.
All right, thank you, Councillor LeBlanc. Anything else? Councillor Dawson?
Just the next, that's not a motion, it's be an agenda item. I'd like to discuss what I talked about earlier in the report from councillors to do with the ports of Yarmouth and Eddard. Oh, no, not the next meeting, because I'll be away. The one after that. The next regular council meeting.
Okay.
I'll be on the same beach Danny's on.
Yeah,
March regular.
all right. Anything else? Nope, move on to question period. Is there any questions? No questions, all right. I think we had in camera. Did you add in camera?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Motion to go in camera?